Friday show. Welcome back. Going into the weekend strong. Man, I can't do it without you guys, period. All of you guys who watch, we've gotten a few donations in. You people that donate are just amazing. My loyal fans, all of you, couldn't do it without you guys, seriously. And thank you once again for joining us. If you do want to donate, go to brettbreaksthings.com, hit the donate button. So, yes, Hillary Clinton did get pulled in. We're just going to, look, she said she never doesn't remember meeting Epstein, never knew of what he did. She said some things. We're going to have a chance to talk about it because it looks like they are going to release video of that testimony. So when they release that, we'll get a look at it. There's some other stuff brewing in that. So it is on our radar. It is on our radar. But, Bill's going, thank you, Scotty. And Bill's going in, having his testimony, giving his testimony right now. And I'm guessing they'll just release the video of that eventually. You don't think so? Maybe. Yeah, right? Boy, but okay, so Scott said, I think they're going to wait to see what he says, but man, would it be a bad look if they release the Hillary video because it didn't hurt them, then all of a sudden they don't release the Bill video on the back end of that?
Well, they're already doing the coming out and saying, well, she was very, erratic in there, and she was yelling and screaming, and then Democrats said, that's not how we would call it. They're playing games, and they asked questions about Pizzagate and UFOs, and so it's a show. It's all a show. So when there's something to bring you on that, we'll bring it to you. We promise. We'd rather focus on the things that are really, really going to affect us. And unfortunately, there has been a development in Trump's attempts to federalize or take over or influence our elections. There has been a major, major development. Okay, so we're going to get into it. We're going to take a look at it. And we're going to fit it alongside all the other efforts. All the other efforts that are being undertaken by Trump himself, the DOJ, DNI, Tulsi Gabbard. All these efforts come together. And so something new has developed. There is a 17-page executive order draft. A draft for an emergency executive order. It's floating around. It's about to surface. We want to get you oriented now. They're blowing past some of their previous plans. They're blowing past some straight into this. The plans they're kind of blowing past right now is the SAVE Act, right? The writing's on the wall. The Republicans, John Thune, had said, I'm not lowering the threshold. I'm not making it a simple majority vote. We're not doing that. We're not eliminating the filibuster. So it's going to have to be 60 votes. There is not support in the Senate for the SAVE Act from the Republicans, from the Democratic side to get 60 votes. It's not there. It's not going to happen. So here comes the response. They're blowing past it. They already see. And they'll talk about it. Hey, the SAVE Act, if you don't vote against it, blah, blah, blah. If you can't make this happen, you don't love voter IDs. How dare you not love our elections in America, right? And they'll do the rhetoric, but it's not there. Save America Act and the SAVE Act, two separate acts, both attacking voter registration, essentially in mail-in balloting. They're not going to get through. Okay, so that's the reality. So what is Trump doing in response to this? They're just blowing right ahead with this 17-page draft executive order. It will soon be an emergency executive order out of Trump. Okay, let's just get oriented and ready right now. Now, one of the authors of this draft, and we're going to hear from him, is a guy named Peter Tickton. Some of my audience probably recognizes that name. He's a buddy of Trump's. Oh, yeah, they went to high school together. They went to the New York Military Academy together in 7th grade and graduated from there. So they've been buddies for a long, long time, okay? And he was part of Trump's legal team that tried to unsuccessfully sue the government over the DOJ's shameful attempt at trying to involve Trump in Russian meddling in the 2016 elections, okay? Don't forget, Obama intelligence report said, yes, there was Russian meddling. And that intelligence report also said they were meddling on behalf of Trump. So this guy Tickton, along with Trump and some other lawyers, sued unsuccessfully over that. That's who this guy is. Okay. Now he said a few things, and we're gonna make very clear what they're trying to do with this emergency executive order and how they're going to do it. We're gonna break it down to you so you know exactly their tactic, their next maneuver in drastically lowering the amount of people who vote. That is the goal, through hook or through crook. And they've got multiple levers going right now at the same time. And this is one of the major ones about to be unveiled. And Peter Tickton talked about it. He said, under the Constitution, it's the legislatures and the states that really control how a state conducts its elections. And the president doesn't have any power to do that. That is absolutely true. That's what it says in the Constitution. What else do you have to say, Mr. Tickton? He goes on to say, but here we have a situation where the president is aware that there are foreign interests that are interfering with our election process. That causes a national emergency where the president has to be able to deal with it. Here we go. Get ready. This is the talking point. This is the talking point on the back of some of those seizures of voting ballots, and on the back of 11 Republican states who have handed over their voter rolls already. This is what you're going to hear. You're going to hear that Tulsi Gabbard, our DNI, is involved in undercovering foreign interference into our elections that are about to happen. Through all of these ballots they seized and all the ballots that were handed over, they are going to amount to an emergency, a national emergency that requires an emergency executive order to deal with it, okay? This is how it is being framed. This is how it's being framed. This is where Tulsi fits into the equation. We were struggling for a little while to see how her involvement in the FBI seizure in Fulton County, how that makes sense. How does that make sense? Now we see how it makes sense to this administration, how it fits in their plan. This guy Tickton, he's very influential with the president. He's very close to the president. When he gets in the president's ear, things happen. Like Tina Peters. You remember that former county clerk in Colorado who got berated by that judge and then sentenced to 9 years for election interference? He was her lawyer. And once she got sentenced, he got into the president's ear and said, hey, you should hand her a pardon. And Trump did in December. But those were state charges she was convicted on. She's still in jail. A federal pardon doesn't cover state charges. Sorry, Tina. Sorry, Peter, you knew that already. It was all symbolic, but she got her pardon. This guy, and I'm telling you right now, he's writing some of the more recent Truth Social posts for Don. He's writing them for Don. Now, this was out of Don's account on Truth Social. You tell me, does this sound like Don, or does this sound like a lawyer, possibly Tickton? And remember, as I read this to you, none of this is in crazy caps with multiple exclamations. Here I go. This was from the president's Truth Social post. I have searched the depths of legal arguments not yet articulated or vetted on this subject, and I will be presenting an irrefutable one in the very near future. I will be presenting them shortly in the form of an executive order. Does that sound like our beautiful mind, Donnie? Or does that sound like a lawyer named Peter Tickton? You decide. I'll leave that up to you. Nobody taught Don the word irrefutable, articulated. Nobody taught Don these words. Okay, so they're basing this, let's talk about this order. Let's do it. They're basing this order off an original 2018 emergency declared over our election interference. This was an emergency that Biden liked, and he continued it going through his presidency. And so on the back of this emergency from 2018, there were Iranian and Russian entities arrested, sanctioned rather, for their involvement in trying to interfere. There was some there, no doubt. Even the Biden administration felt that. So on the back of that emergency, they based this new executive order. And they even speak right to it because the details of this executive order are leaked. That's why they have to say things about it. But here's an excerpt from the executive order. There is now clear and compelling evidence from court cases and forensic analysis that these threats have not yet been mitigated and have instead intensified. This constitutes an unusual and extraordinary threat to national security and foreign policy of the United States. You see what they're doing here. They're saying, look, even your Biden administration knew there were foreign threats. And now that we've gotten a hold of the records and the analysis and the forensics, we're here to tell you, oh, that administration didn't go far enough. They didn't get the job done. It's worsened. And so now it's an emergency. It's a direct threat to our national security. Now, there are many actors putting forth efforts to further this goal, and this has been in the process for months. Chuck Grassley, just in July, he comes up and shows this, intel report from the FBI showing alleged Chinese interference and their efforts to produce these fake IDs for mail-in ballots, right? This Chuck brings up in July, just last July. Well, Chuck, we did this dance. This is how disingenuous they are. We did this dance, Chuck. This dance, this was the basis of that Arizona audit. You remember the audit? The cyber ninjas came in. They were specifically looking for fibers, Chinese unique fibers on the mail-in ballots to identify them as having been involved with these fake IDs. We did this. And the audit showed that Biden actually won by a little teeny bit more than he did previously. That was the result of your little audit based on this Chinese ballot lie. We did this dance, Chuck. You know, that's two big swings and misses for Chuck, by the way. It was Chuck who just spouts out, oh, by the way, Jack Smith wiretapped all these senators and listened in on their conversations. How'd that go for you, Chuck? You got Jim Jordan and hot water. We all got to listen to Jack dissect you guys. And then Eileen Cannon comes in behind and seals the rest of it so Jack can't embarrass you anymore. Pathetic. That's two big swings and misses for you, Chuck. Maybe you're getting a little too old for the game, bud. There's other people involved saying things, like other authors of this executive order are now coming out trying to ease us into the idea of this emergency, like Jerome Corsi. I'll give you a second. You may remember, you may not. I had to be a little refreshed on this guy. He's the guy who was behind birtherism, right? He's the guy who was behind all of those lies and conspiracies around the death of Seth Rich, the Democratic staffer, who he later, Jerome had to come out and apologize. Jerome Corsi, he was the one who special counsel Robert Mueller had to investigate because he was the link between WikiLeaks and Roger Stone during the 2016 campaign. That Jerome Corsi, yeah, he's one of the authors of this executive order. And he's coming out and saying things, and he's being a little more straightforward than some of these other guys. He said, the stage is largely being set by the revelations coming out of the foreign powers being involved in influencing the 2020 election. If there was a provable foreign intrusion, that would be a national security emergency, and the order could be issued under his powers as commander-in-chief. They're telling us it's coming. Trump's telling us it's coming. This is happening because the SAVE Act isn't. This is happening because the Save America Act is not happening. That's why this is happening. And I'm going to tell you exactly what they're going to do with this order. I'm going to break it right down for you. The reasons they're going to give, we talked about it, and how they're going to go about this. What laws are they going to lean on? What legalities, what arguments, justifications are they going to lean on to get away with this? And what exactly are they trying to get away with? I'm telling you right now, this thing, it's the ball game. It's the ball game. When you hear the details of what they're trying to do with this emergency executive order, the severity and the seriousness of this situation will soon set upon you. That's a promise. 2026 midterms are in serious jeopardy.
It's time for a quick break, then we break some more. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things. We'll be back to break it all down. You're listening to Brett Breaks. back to Brett Breaks Things, smashing spin, silencing the noise, and keeping it all facts. No fluff.
You know, one of the things Randy would periodically bring up, and I know a lot of her faithful listeners and the people in my audience who loved her, one thing she brought up a lot was Paul Weyrich. Paul Weyrich. Paul Weyrich is a Republican, staunch Republican, conservative fundraiser, and he is a co-founder of Heritage Foundation. That Heritage Foundation, Paul Weyrich. And she likes to bring up and keep you reminded of the fact that Paul Weyrich went to an evangelical conference, a meeting of evangelicals in 1980, and stood up there and said, blah, 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 good government, blah, blah, blah. They want everyone to vote. I don't want everyone to vote. Republicans do better the less people that show out. Paul Weyrich that day said the quietest part as loud as possible. And now it's Paul Weyrich's philosophy on steroids. What he said that day has been a universal truth for multiple election cycles. The more people that turn out, the better the Democrats do. Period. And so while they subtly, for 4 decades, went about trying to subvert and cajole and sneak and, you know, pass laws, state level laws, and move ballot boxes and restrict voting access in little ways, like taking away different voting, places and precincts. Those days are over. The days of the Republican Party quietly going about suppressing your votes are over. This is Paul Weyrich's philosophy on steroids. What am I talking about? What are we talking about here with this executive order? First, it will include requiring hand-marked balloting. Hand-marked ballots. No more electronics at all. No more electronics at all. I want you to remember that. We're all gonna go back to filling in those little circles. Those of you my age or older, you remember filling those little circles. We're gonna go back to that. Okay? And we will be hand counting every ballot going forward. So hand marked ballots, hand counted ballots. This emergency, here we go. It will require voters to register anew for the 2026 midterms. We all have to re-register. And when we do, we will now have to provide irrefutable proof that we are American citizens. Birth certificates, proof of citizenship, irrefutable. Okay? So we're all going to have to re-register with the new proof guidelines that are laid out in the Save America Act. All the crazy proof of birth, of where you were born, proof of your citizenship, all sorts of identifiers that are going to be necessary upon registration. All the things that are in the failed Save America Act and the failed Save Act are now jammed in this executive emergency order. It will, why do I say the Save Act? Because it will wage war on mail balloting. It will heavily restrict mail balloting. It will eliminate any ballots counted through the mail after Election Day, postmarked or not. Postmarked or not. If Louis DeJoy's Postal Service screws it up once again, like he's supposed to, and your ballot doesn't get there, even if you sent it 3 weeks prior, doesn't get there by Election Day, it is not counted. That's in this emergency action. That's in this emergency order. It's in there. What was that? What was that old spaghetti sauce? Ragu? Was it ragu? It's in there. It's in there. Scotty, what's up?
I didn't give you this story because I didn't think of it until you were just saying it, but on Tuesday, the Supreme Court sided with the federal government and basically laid out that the U.S. Postal Service can't be sued over intentionally misdelivering mail.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Scott. So you mail in your ballot 3 weeks prior. Louis DeJoy goes about his business of screwing it all up and making sure it doesn't get there on time. When your ballot is thrown out because it got there after Election Day, you can't sue him. Awesome. Even if it's found out they did it on purpose. We are a banana republic right now. We are literally a third world country. Is this like fully dawning on me right now? Was this the story? Was this the detail that broke my back, Scott? We are not fighting against a possible dictatorship anymore. We are not fighting to be a modernized nation that respects laws and morals. We are a despotic hellscape. Even if DeJoy's U.S. Post Service purposefully discards your ballot and it doesn't get there before Election Day, you can't sue them. It doesn't count, you can't sue them. Well, I guess you better show up, huh? Sorry, those of you who live in the boonies. Sorry, elderly. Sorry, those who are, dependent on certain medical life-giving apparatus at your house. Sorry. You want to take part in Americana? You better get your ass to the poll. I'm here to tell you. Jesus. Oh, and of course, also in this act, in this emergency order, the Justice Department, ICE, Social Security, and the Post Office will all have a role in identifying ineligible voters. What, you thought purging wasn't going to be jammed in here? You thought, the purging is just part of it, right? We're going to take all of these ballots from Fulton County and Puerto Rico and all of these, states who have given us their voter rolls. We're going to take all this and we're going to compare it, analyze it against our database, which has been proven to be flawed. We're going to do a slapdash, haphazard job, and we're going to mistakenly, purge thousands, possibly tens, God forbid, hundreds of thousands of voters because they didn't come up properly being analyzed against our database. Factual or not, appropriately or not. That's only part of what they're going for. And that part is jammed in this emergency order as well. All of those agencies are going to come together to purge you. One of them is going to come up with a reason. Somebody's going to do their job and come up with a reason and purge your ass. How are they going to do this? They're going to use 3 acts. 3 acts in particular. Now, as I tell you what 3 acts that they are calling upon here, I encourage you to go check out these acts yourself in totality and see how they're trying to apply it here. But I'm going to give you the back of the envelope. I'm going to give you the back of the envelope right now. 1, the National Emergency Act of 1976. We've heard this already. That allows him to declare an official emergency that has national security concerns. That's 1. We officially declare there to be an emergency. 2, the Federal Information Security Modernization Act of 2014. In short, that will allow DHS total control over all of our election security. All election cybersecurity and security from foreign threats, the DHS alone will have control of all of it, out of the state's hands, out of any adjoining department's hands, and solely in the control of Kristi Noem. And 3, they will use the Defense Production Act of 1950. We've heard this kicked around a little bit lately as it's being weaponized. Against Anthropic, who we're going to get to. Now they're using it to weaponize against your vote. How are they going to use the Defense Production Act? Well, among other things, obviously, you're familiar with the manufacturing aspect of the Defense Production Act, forcing certain goods to go to the government, forcing certain companies to make goods for them in the interest of national security or a war. In this case, though, they're going to the fine print. Any company has to accept any orders from the federal government when it is in concerns of national security. So they're going to go to the voting machines. And they're going to say, stop production, stop usage of them, pull them out. We want them. Give them to us. We're no longer going to be using your voting machines. We're going only hand marked and hand counted. So we don't need your voting machines anymore. We're going to seize those. And we don't need those electronic voting tickets anymore because, like I said, we're hand marked now. In comes Scott Lydecker. We did this story. Scott Lydecker, conspiracy theorist, staunch Trumpist, has bought Dominion voting machines. They bought Dominion. 27 states use Dominion voting machines. Along with that, Scott Lydecker had a very successful electronic voting ticket business, which is used in 16 states. In 14 states, both are being used. Scott's equipment. Do you think Scott Lydecker is going to give any pushback at all when Trump comes calling and says, hey, Scott, remember when we paved the way for you to buy Dominion? Remember that? Give us your machines. We're not using them anymore, and we're going to find foreign interference embedded in here. We're going to find illegal voters, irregularities, registration violations. Give us your machines, Scott. We won't be needing those voting electronic tickets anymore either. Thanks, bud. Is Scott going to push back? This is why it matters. This is the whole ball game. This will suppress plenty of votes, more than enough votes to affect the 2026 midterms. Plenty, more than enough. Overkill. 54% of Americans oppose Trump's efforts to federalize elections. 23% support it. And 24% said, I don't care. God help us.
We'll be back to break it all down. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things. You're back with Brett Breaks Things, where the truth hits harder than the headlines.
Okay, these are one of these days where I'm trying to scare you, I guess. Let's be honest. Some days I'm like, yay, and some days I'm trying to scare you. And it's not hard with that coming down the pike. They're talking around it. Hey, it's not over till it's over. It isn't happening till he signs it. It's happening. It's happening. It will be up to district court judges to block this. The administration will get sued. This will play out in courts. Will it play out quick enough to avoid quick enough to spell doom for the 2026 midterms, or will it drag and get stiff-armed enough to not affect the 2026 midterms? These are the types of machinations I would expect Don to go through if he truly believes he's going to be impeached, if the Dems take majority anywhere. And a lot of people believe that will happen. So this is the type of thing I expect him to do in the face of that kind of possible storm coming, that kind of danger on the horizon for him. I'm not surprised. This is the appropriate response from a dictator. This is the type of response you would expect from an authoritarian. And the assault continues, and it's starting to spread across party lines. We talked about 11 states, 11 Republican-led states handing over voter data. And then a whole bunch of other states got sued for their voter data. Like a lot of states said, no, we're not going to hand them over to you, Pam Bondi. We're not going to hand them over. And they got sued. Well, more states are now getting sued, and not just blue states now. Not just blue states. The Trump administration has sued 5 more states over voting data. You know, the purge portion of the equation. They have sued 5 more states. And the states that they are suing might surprise you. 4 of them will, at least. Utah, red as hell. Oklahoma, even more red. West Virginia, ruby red. And Kentucky, still red. Now, the other state, the fifth state, is New Jersey. No giant surprise there, especially on the heels of a huge win for Democratic Governor Mikey Sherrill. You want to rebuke the Trump administration in such an outstanding manner, you should expect retribution of this form. So the New Jersey doesn't shock anybody. As far as the Kentucky, well, don't forget they've got Democratic Governor Andy Beshear. That's enough. That's enough to get you sued. That's enough to get you sued. But man, Utah, Oklahoma, and West Virginia, they didn't immediately hand over their voter rolls, so now they are getting sued. This effort to avoid a fair election in these midterms, this is going to suck in not just Democrats, but Republicans as well. This is the whole ball game. They are going to sideswipe a lot of allies in this. But these three states, crazy. Crazy. Why do I say it's so damn crazy for these three states? These three states in 2024, in Utah, Oklahoma, and West Virginia, they won every statewide race. They won every seat house. And they have a supermajority in their state legislatures. That's 2/3. That's 2/3 in the state Congress. 2/3, supermajority. These three states. These are as loyal Republican states as you could possibly find. And they are getting sued. What's more, the top election officials, the people who run the elections, the people who would probably be on board for whatever shenanigans you present them, Mr. President, the top election officials in all of these, in Utah, West Virginia, Kentucky, and Oklahoma, every top election official in those four states is Republican. They're getting sued. Crazy. Now other Republican states, ruby red states, are getting drawn into our fight against this administration trying to steal these elections. Talk about strange bedfellows. Come on over, Oklahoma, Utah. See how it feels from our side. How you like that? You are not in complete lockstep with this cult leader and you get sued. Complete lockstep right now. Complete fealty, complete loyalty, complete lockstep. Do our demands right now, or you are sued. How's it feel? Crazy. Andy Beshear, no comment. Kentucky. Governor Spencer Cox out of Utah, no comment. Patrick Morrissey out of West Virginia, no comment. Mikey Sherrill, no comment. Kevin Stitt of Oklahoma simply released this statement. He's the governor of Oklahoma, Kevin Stitt. He released this statement. Oklahoma has led the nation in secure and transparent elections and strict voter ID laws. Boom. Hard stop. Hard stop. So that makes 11 states who have handed over, completely betrayed the residents of their states by handing over all of their data to the government. 11 states have done that. This makes 29 states plus the District of Columbia who are currently being sued by the Trump administration for all of their voter data. Recently, in 3 cases, in California, Michigan, and Oregon, judges have dismissed those lawsuits. So, right now, on this lawsuits, the Trump administration is 0 for 3. 2 of the judges issued explicit warnings that, in their view, the Trump administration could not be trusted, that its efforts to centralize the electoral process posed a serious risk. The judges. We were told a long time ago that the judges, they would be the ones on the front lines of this fight for democracy. It would be the judges. And I have brought you multiple stories where you have been proud of morally founded, constitutionally founded decisions made by judges across this country. Some in red states. Some judges appointed by Trump. The Supreme Court sometimes, huh? We have been impressed by some judges and absolutely let down and betrayed by others. But we're going to continue to talk about some judges that are standing up to this administration, like those judges in California, Michigan, and Oregon. Judges that are standing up to this administration. Let's talk about Judge Laura Provenzino. She's in Minnesota. Now, months ago, she had ordered a detained immigrant to be released in Minnesota. Okay, this is an order from Judge Laura Provenzino. She's a federal district court of the District of Minnesota. Okay, she ordered this one detained immigrant to be released here in the state of Minnesota. What did DHS do? They moved him to El Paso, where he spent the night in a shelter, and all of his belongings were kept from him. So, the judge ordered that all of his belongings, all of his private identification, all of his belongings be returned to him immediately. And they were not. They were not. So last week, there was a hearing. Judge Provenzino held a hearing in a civil contempt case against the DOJ. Because this gentleman's property still was not returned. And this seems like possibly a small matter, and the numbers involved, the penalties involved, they may seem small. This is not small. This is an order from a judge. An order from a judge imposing consequences on this government. This is not insignificant at all. Okay, so this Judge Provenzino, she brought in the lawyer representing the DOJ in this case. The lawyer's name was Matthew Isahara. He's a military judge advocate. He was temporarily assigned to the Justice Department to help with a bunch of cases, and I mean a lot. Why a military judge advocate? Well, remember, we've done the stories you know all about. You know all about JAG being completely dismantled by Pete Hegseth. Dismantled. Completely toothless. He has no need for JAG officers because nobody's going to be reporting any, untoward behavior out of officers or anybody in a position of power in the military anymore. Not under Pete Hegseth's military. No more pesky sexual assault allegations. No more pesky investigations into high-ranking officials into their conduct. We don't need JAG officers anymore. So what are these JAG officers doing? They're off helping the federal government in other matters, not military related, like defending the DOJ as they unconstitutionally withhold this detained immigrant's belongings. That's what he's doing now. That's why he's there. So he goes in front of the judge in this hearing, and the judge says, "Why should I not hold you in contempt?" Boom. Simple question. And he said to that, "I don't think there was ever any intention to defy court orders. We were doing our best and things unfortunately slipped through the cracks." A part of me actually feels for this guy. He's been assigned 104 cases this month. Dude's overworked. There will be sometimes, when a case like this is framed in a certain way where, the details of it and what these people are saying are framed in a certain way where I might go, "I'll listen to this lie or listen to this disingenuous lawyer." I don't know if that's quite the case here. It may have just slipped. It may have. Okay? It may have just slipped. It might not have been on purpose. I'll tell you how I think it played out. I think DHS had this gentleman's belongings. And I think this judge ordered the belongings returned. And I think the DOJ lawyer, Matthew here, requested this immigrant's belongings from DHS and didn't get them. That's what I think happened. I think he didn't get them. Maybe he requested again and didn't get them. Maybe he let it slip for a while, didn't think about it because he's got 104 cases this month. And so he ended up in front of Judge Provenzino. But Judge Provenzino isn't the only one. She's not the only one. There have been 35 cases documented right now where judges just like her have come right up to the line of doing what she did, which is hold Matthew in contempt, which she did on Wednesday. 35 other cases of multiple judges all getting ready to hold DOJ lawyers in contempt for not obeying court's orders.
Breaking politics, breaking narratives, breaking news. But first, we need a coffee break. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things, pushing back, speaking up, and holding the line.
Okay. So Judge Provenzino holds this Matthew Isahara, this JAG lawyer, in contempt of court. Boom. He gave you plenty of time to give this gentleman back his belongings. You are now officially in contempt of court. And Matthew had $500 a day in penalties assessed to him every day that this gentleman did not get his papers, all of his identifiers, right? His belongings. $500 a day. So what happens? Matthew was able to magically get his hands on all of this guy's belongings and overnight expressed it to this immigrant. And so the judge immediately lifted the contempt. I don't know what changed. You could sit there and say, Brett, you're being naive. This guy, Matthew, he had him. I don't know. Maybe this case got a little bit more press because of the contempt order. And maybe, it got moved through proper channels in DHS to get to this guy, and then he got it overnight to the immigrant. I don't know how that played out, but it happened, and the judge lifted the order. But like I said, this is happening with judges across the country. So what's happening is they have to show cause. Right? Show cause for their actions. A whole slew of actions that ICE and CBP and DHS have gone about, a whole slew of them need cause in the eyes of a ton of judges, and they run up to the line of getting contempt ordered on them as well. California, Texas, Florida, Massachusetts, Michigan, New York, West Virginia, and Puerto Rico have all had judges threaten contempt of court, issuing show cause orders on DOJ lawyers all over detained immigrants. A lot of this is about detained immigrants who were released into this country and have been living here for years and years. That is what many of the detained immigrants we're talking about. That is the situation we're talking about. These judges are saying that administration officials have testified dishonestly, represented the law incorrectly, and failed time and time again to comply with their prompt orders. Orders right now, comply, and they do not. And the judges, some of these judges came out and said a lot of stuff. A lot of these judges had a lot to say. I'm not going to bring you every quote from every judge. They're not happy with this administration, and they all point to a larger concern, a larger threat posed by this administration and their efforts. So, of course, the loyalists have to come out and say things against the judges. Of course, they have to attack these judges. How dare these judges be honest about how they feel about the administration's efforts with these detained immigrants? People like Natalie Baldessari, a Justice Department spokeswoman, said, these are rogue judges. There we go. There we are. There's the talking point. We've heard that quite a few times. Rogue judges. Totally rogue, these judges. She went on to say the Trump administration was complying with court orders and fully enforcing federal immigration law. Okay, so even though, like in the case with Matthew Isahara and this detained immigrant's belongings, you clearly weren't fully complying, and you were absolutely able to give him back his crap in a much more timely manner. You're a liar. You're a liar, Natalie Baldessari. Your government is not complying. When they are fully capable of doing so, they are declining to do so. These judges all see it for what it is. Daniel Rosen, he's the U.S. attorney in Minnesota. He spoke right to Judge Provenzino's contempt of court order. And just we're clear, Daniel Rosen is absolutely a foot soldier, a Trump hand-picked U.S. attorney from Minnesota. He said Judge Provenzino's order is lawless and an abuse of judicial power. There it is. There's the culture war. Any judge making a morally founded decision in this country, you can identify them by what our administration says about them. Lawless, rogue, abuse of power. When you hear that about a judge, it means they made a morally founded, constitutionally founded decision. Every single time. That's the identifier. That's the identifier. Every single time. And why do I feel like it could have been a mistake? Why do I feel like this actually could have been a mistake, possibly? Maybe throughout DHS and the DOJ. Why do I feel like this could possibly be a mistake? Because since the beginning of this revamped immigration policy of Trump's, the courts have been flooded with immigration cases. Flooded. Here's the thing. All of these immigrants are being detained without bond. And this is causing a big problem. Normally, immigrants set to be deported for whatever reason, they are detained, given a court date, and they're able to get bonded out. Not all of Trump's detainees here in Minnesota and other places. They're holding them without bond. Okay? And so that has generated a flood of cases. A lot of habeas corpus petitions, specifically. Okay? And this pileup of cases has put such a strain on the DOJ, who is already crazy understaffed. We've done this story before. All of the lawyers that have walked away, all the lawyers that are saying no thanks to a career in the DOJ. This didn't used to be the case. You went to the DOJ if you thought you were good enough. You thought you were good enough to have a job as a lawyer with the DOJ. That was a coveted position. That was a coveted position, something you dreamed about. Now our DOJ is putting out open ads looking for applicants. Please. I told you, this guy, Matthew Isahara, he had 104 cases this month. So yeah, I do think it could have been a mistake. That's the effect of unconstitutionally detaining thousands of people. The courts are flooded. There is not enough lawyers to defend this administration, period. Not enough lawyers. Let me tell you about another judge. Since we're rolling along here in a final segment, let me tell you about another judge. Judge Colleen Kolar-Catelli. Colleen Kolar-Catelli. Okay. She is a U.S. District Judge, and she ruled on a data sharing agreement. You see, there's a data sharing agreement between the IRS and ICE. That's right. A data sharing agreement. Now, this agreement by law requires, and what they're looking for is addresses and people's identification. Let's be clear what they're looking for. They're looking to, compare addresses between tax filing and actual address we have for someone. We're trying to track them, identify them. Just more data sharing, more data analyzing. So here's the thing. The IRS, ICE is supposed to, what they're supposed to do is they're supposed to give the IRS the address of someone who they want the tax address on from the IRS. Okay, because there's your address, the one you live at, and then there's the address that's on your tax filings. Like maybe your business, it would have a different address. So the way they're supposed to share this data is ICE is supposed to identify the person they want this data on, person by person. The way it goes is ICE gives the name and address to the IRS of someone they want the tax information on. What had they been doing? 42,659 times the IRS just handed over someone's identification, someone's tax filings without any request formally from ICE with their address attached. What ICE was doing was saying, here's a bunch of names, no addresses, nothing else. Here's a bunch of names, a bunch. Give us the tax filings on them. And the IRS said, okay, here you go. Period. End of transaction. ICE is supposed to go, here's Joe Schmo at 123 Sunshine address. Can you please give me his tax information? Here's Jane Doe at whatever. Can I have hers? Thank you, please. No. ICE just said, here's 42,000 names. And the IRS said, here's all those 42,000 names, tax information. Have at it. Well, Judge Colleen Kolar Cotelli said, you are in violation. You are in violation of this law. You are in violation of the terms of this data sharing agreement, and it is over. The data sharing agreement has now been blocked. You're done doing this. Congratulations. Well done, Judge. Well done. Very nicely done. So she wrote that the vast majority of the nearly 47,000 attempts to get taxpayer addresses the IRS shared with immigration in August were disclosed without the IRS confirming that ICE provided a valid address for the person whose record it was seeking. That's from the judge. She saw it very clearly for what it is, and she put a stop to it. It's done. It's done. So, you know how I like to do on this show. You know how I like to do it. I like to long game it, right? So it's already in appeals. All right, this is in D.C. So it's gone to appeals on Judge Colleen's decision. It's gone to appeal. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of D.C. For the D.C. Circuit, rather. The appeals court. And what did I do then? You guys have been watching me long enough. What did I do then? I went and I looked up the judges there, the appellate judges in the D.C. Circuit. I went and I looked them up. And you know what I found? I found that although they have not yet selected the judges that will rule on this appeal, they haven't yet picked them. 8 of those judges, there are 8 of them. Of the 8 judges, 2 are Trump appointees, 4 are Obama appointees, 1 was a Bush appointee, and 1 was a Biden appointee. I like our odds. I like our odds on that one. I like our odds for our law apparatus to correctly adjust, apply the law, hand down consequence to 2 federal agencies that have violated our rights. This is what I expect. Will that happen? I like our odds. I like our odds. When those judges are picked, we'll take a closer look, right? They'll make a decision. The judges will be picked. They'll make their decision. But this is kind of a big deal. This is kind of a big deal. Another deal where a judge stood right in the firing line of the Trump administration over an issue involving our rights and our privacy as American citizens. I love it. Love that action. We are going to come back for overtime. Because there has been a small update in the Anthropic story. And there's another story as well I want to get to, and it's absolutely heartbreaking. So we are coming back for overtime, and as we're heading into the weekend, and I appreciate you guys hanging around. I didn't mean to scare you. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you. We're coming right back.
It's time for a quick break, then we break some more. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things. Brett Breaks Things, where the stakes are high and the truth still matters.
All right, Nuru Amin Shah Alam, 56-year-old, 56-year-old immigrant from Myanmar's Rohingya minority, all right, so from Myanmar. Shah Alam is what he's more commonly referred to, Shah Alam. This guy, Shah Alam, he came to this country in 2024. In 2025, he was found wandering on a woman's property. Police officers approached him. According to police reports, he bit 2 of the officers. He was tased. He was arrested. Okay, that was in 2025. Bail was originally set for $50,000. It was lowered to $5,000 in June of 2025. He pleaded guilty. He sat there for a while. He pleaded guilty to 2 misdemeanors, and he was scheduled to be sentenced this March. Okay, he pled guilty, scheduled to be sentenced in March, sitting in jail. On February 19th, a bond was posted for Shah Alam. Bond was posted. When the bond was posted, the sheriff's office called CBP and said, an immigrant who has been detained and is set to be sentenced is being released from our jail right now. Would you like to come pick him up? And they said yes. So CBP went down, and Shah Alam went from rotting in jail for months straight into CBP custody. From the jail, straight into a CBP truck. Detained, zip ties, back of the truck, whole deal. Whole deal. So they got him in the car, and they began scanning and looking over his information, and they made the determination as they're driving along that Shah Alam was not deportable right now. For whatever reason, they decided not deportable at the moment. We're going to let him go. We're going to let him go. According to CBP spokesman, they offered him a courtesy ride, which he chose to accept, to a coffee shop. Determined, what they say matters. Listen to this. To a coffee shop, determined to be a warm, safe location near his last known address. They said Shah Alam showed no signs of distress, mobility issues, or disabilities requiring special assistance. Well, Shah Alam was blind. Shah Alam was blind. That's a disability that requires assistance. That's first of all. You want to hear where their lies are? You want to hear why this matters? Why a bigger deal might be made of it? He was dropped off. Now, those of you who live in the New York area or New England area, those of you who've been to Buffalo know that while I was just talking about a hellscape. Buffalo is a frozen hellscape in the winter. In the summer, it's very nice to visit. The Japanese gardens are beautiful. In the winter, it is a frozen, barren, apocalyptic tundra. It is freezing ass cold. It is the 10th cloudiest city in the world or something like that. It is frozen. It is a frozen wasteland, period. So they dropped this blind man off at a coffee shop at 8 p.m. after the shop was closed on February 19th. Think about that. Those of you who've been to Buffalo, 8 p.m. in February in Buffalo, they dropped him off at a coffee shop that was already closed. We have video of him being dropped off. This is Shah Alam being dropped off by CBP at a closed coffee shop at 8 p.m. in February. Now, there's no audio on this. That is him wandering by. He's dropped off, and then he goes wandering by the drive-through window, puts up his hood. He has a hood on, puts up his hood, and wanders past the drive-through window. There he is. Just kind of aimlessly wandering up. Blind man in Buffalo in February, puts his hood up and keeps on wandering. Well, that was the last time anybody saw him. He was officially missing by his family shortly after that. Days went by, no sign of Shah Alam. And then they found him dead. They found his body. He died. Now, I just thinking about dozens of people gathered at his funeral. Wife, 2 kids. One of his relatives said they came here seeking a home, and this home killed him. So just know that if you want to focus your anger and your rage that you're feeling right now, focus it on the words of the CBP spokesman, the lies they told. A coffee shop determined to be a warm, safe location showed no signs of mobility issues or any sign of needing or any disabilities requiring special assistance. He was blind. That shop was closed. Could not enter. A closed coffee shop in Buffalo in February at 8 p.m. is not a warm, safe location. A blind person is in need of assistance. They could have taken him home. They could have arranged for him to be taken to his house. And when they realized they couldn't get a splashy little deportation out of it, they dropped them off at a closed coffee shop and then lied about it. Just want to put that on your radar. Some of you may have seen the story, some of you have not. Now that you know the details, focus your rage on their lies and hope to God something is made of this, something bigger. Sometimes I bring you stories, and I hope to God somebody will bring some light to it, bring it up in Congress. Something will be made of it. His family certainly is going to retain a lawyer. Let's wait and see. Okay, I'm going to end the show with this. I've described to you the saga of Anthropic. I am completely engaged in this story. I can't get enough of it. Because of Anthropic's founder and CEO, Dario Amati. This guy is becoming the public face of dissent, the public face of morality and transparency, completely at odds with Pete Hegseth's vision for the Department of Defense or the Department of War. I just can't get enough of it. I can't get enough of this story. And I know you know the details if you've been watching the show. Anthropic has the best AI called Claude. Claude has a special military classified contract. The only AI classified contract the military has ever given out, a $200 million contract with the DOD classified contract. It is the best AI strategy, intelligence gathering, intelligence analyzation. All sorts of things that the DOD has been leaning on more and more and more because Claude is the best. The DOD attempted to use Claude to engage in mass civilian surveillance, and Anthropic said no. Dario Amati said, you may not use my AI for that. The government is trying to use Claude for unmanned lethal strikes, and Amati again said no. The government used Claude to unseat Maduro, the strategy and planning, the intelligence gathering, all of it. Amati said never again. You may not use my AI for that. So, the war of words began. Pete Hegseth called in Amati for a meeting. Pete Hegseth said, listen, Dario, I need you to lift all restrictions. If it's legally, you can forget moral. If it's legal, I want to use your AI. And Dario said, respectfully, no, Mr. Secretary. And so Pete said, okay, Dario, you've got till 5:01 Friday, today, 5:01 p.m. today, or else. Or else. What's the or else? It's the most ridiculous or else ever. It's the most contradictory, stupid, short-sighted or else ever. Two threats. One, we'll use the Defense Act, the Defense Production Act, to force you to let us use your AI for whatever we see fit. What's the second threat? We are going to deem your company a supply chain risk. So nobody can use your company at all for these matters. One, we're going to force you to let us use your AI. Two, we're going to make sure nobody ever uses your AI. Very Trumpian. So 5:01. Well, the update. Dario did not wait till 5:01 to issue a response. Now, I'm not going to give you the whole thing, but if you go to Anthropic.com, you can see Dario's little mission statement here. Okay? You can see his response, but I'm just going to bring you the juicy stuff. However, in a narrow set of, okay, he argues about, first, we've done everything you wanted us to do. We love the defense effort. We love national security. We love you using our AI for national security, okay? He said, however, in a narrow set of cases, we believe AI can undermine rather than defend democratic values. That's one. And he said some cases are simply outside the bounds of what today's technology can safely and reliably do. That's two. What he points to in this response are two main sticking points for Pete Hegseth. One, mass surveillance. That is the undermine rather than defend democracy. And he goes about explaining how mass surveillance on citizens is undermining democracy. And he's never going to let Pete Hegseth do that. The other is the fully autonomous weapons. And he goes about explaining how, even with Claude AI, there are moralistic concerns with the automated weapon features for lethal strikes. It's not perfect yet, and innocent people will get blown up. Basically. How dare he? How dare you, Dario Amati? I love this guy. I love this guy. I'm just going to bring you just the end portion. Just the end portion of what he said. You can go check it out. Anthropic.com. This guy, he's one of the champions, man. This is not an easy position to take. There's a $200 million government contract on the line. Their classified status on the line. And this is the stance he takes. God. Just amazing. He said the Department of War has stated they will only contract with AI companies who accede to any lawful use and remove safeguards in the cases mentioned above. They have threatened to remove us from their systems if we maintain these safeguards. They have also threatened to designate us as a supply chain risk. Regardless, these threats do not change our position. We cannot, in good conscience, accede to their requests. There it is. He goes on saying, look, Pete Hegseth's got a culture war waging with us, but we're the very best. Listen to what he said. This is how you do it, man. This is how you do it. This is how you communicate. Just a masterful work of getting his point across without inflammatory rhetoric. Listen to this. He said, it is the department's prerogative to select contractors most aligned with their vision. Your culture war, Pete Hegseth. Your incessant demand that we violate the rights of American citizens. You know, their vision. He continues, but given the substantial value that Anthropic's technology provides to our armed forces, we hope you reconsider. That is how you say, one, you're waging a culture war. You're waging a culture war. And two, you know damn well we're the best. It is not in our country's national defense interests to cut off our contracts because we're the best and you know it. That's how you say that. Masterful. And he goes about to saying, listen, I'm paraphrasing. Listen, you want to cut ties with us? We will ease the transition into whatever inferior AI you want to use going forward. No problem. We'll ease your transition. But Dario knows, as well as Pete, that such a transition would be problematic at the very least, let alone cutting off all use of Anthropic AI altogether all at once. It would take the analysts in the DoD a little bit of time to assess just how much they lean on Claude. And it would take time for them to assess what needs to be offboarded and to what companies they could offboard these duties to. This takes time. Pete is threatening to cut off all use of Claude all together, all at once. This is posturing out of the Pentagon. Pete Hegseth or somebody close to him knows damn well what he's threatening to do. Not a reality. And I think Anthropic knows it as well. But when you talk about offboarding Claude's responsibility to another company, what are we talking about? Okay, well, other suppliers of AI are saying we can step up. As far as the classified status goes, Elon Musk's Grok, right? Elon Musk's AI is about to sign a deal with the government to allow their AI, Elon's AI, military classified access. All right, so the wheels are in motion to possibly follow through, however, with their threat. The wheels are in motion. Google and OpenAI have also said, yeah, we want to get on board, and deals are being struck right now with Google and OpenAI to move into the military classified AI category and sign lucrative hundreds of millions of dollar deals with the DoD for their AI use. And they have all said, Musk, Google, OpenAI, they all said, oh, and by the way, no problem. Whatever you want to use our AI for, use it for. Just use it. We got no problems. We don't have these little moral issues, this little issue of scruples and transparency that Dario has. Come see us. We're ready for the responsibility. But to that, 100 Google employees have signed a letter to their management, and these employees are a huge swath of the employees that work on Google's Gemini AI. So 100 employees that work on Google's Gemini caught wind of this upcoming military contract with the government and said to their management through a letter, every problem that Dario Amati had, we have. We have a red line. No civilian surveillance, no lethal automated strikes with Gemini, or we walk away. How about that? So it's not just Dario. So we've got other soldiers in this fight. Man, just kudos. 100 employees that they are the ones who run Gemini. They write it, they maintain it, they secure it. 100 employees involved with Gemini have said, we're not doing it either. Told their management in no uncertain terms, the problems Dario has, we have as well. Oh, man. How does that feel? I'll see you guys Monday. Thanks for hanging around.